And welcome to the program. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday. It is 106.20 right now and 82 degrees outside with variable wind at 3 miles per hour
3
or less.
That's windy.
That's a very windy day here in the Red River Valley. So hold on to your hat kind of day for sure.
This might blow my toupee off.
No, dude, that thing's gone.
Is it gone?
No, it's gone.
Is it the wind already took it? I haven't checked in a while.
That toupee was like, peace. I'm out.
Literally a piece. I'm out.
Yeah, right.
Cashew outside. How about that?
Oh,
I'm
man.
trying to help.
Yes. 82 degrees. A little on the humid side out there, but not overly humid. We'll be running down the forecast coming up here in just a bit. But if you want to join in on our conversation, ask some questions, have some fun, 701-293-9000. Throw us a curveball, see if someone strikes out. Have some fun with it. It's your opportunity. Call us anytime you want. Email is always available as well. Weather or ag at flagfamily.com, and comment boxes there on Facebook, YouTube Live, where you can also watch us on Acres.
Not too many.
TV brought to you
Not too
by
many
Hefty.
curveballs, though. I could never hit a curveball.
No?
Fastball, no problem.
Fastball?
Curveball, forget it.
Screwball?
Nope.
No curves?
Knuckleball occasionally.
The knuckleball, I'm pretty good with a knuckleball.
Yeah. Can't hit a curve. That's why I never made it.
That is a big part.
I think they did a movie on that, didn't they?
I think that's a
Something
big part about it, is hitting the curveball.
Yeah, gotta be.
Bridgette, how are you when it comes to curveballs?
The better curves I can handle are the ones when I'm driving a car.
See, what I used to do back in the day is we play a little game called Double or Nothing,
What's that?
where you take the corner at double the speed.
So while you guys got busy playing baseball and softball, I actually did drive race cars at that point in my life. I drove street stocks and modifieds about the time I was a senior at high school into my first year
Really?
to a college.
Very fun. Very fun.
Okay, now, how many tickets have you gotten in your driving career?
I
Approximately.
don't think there's a number. I don't think
She
there's a
drives in
number
North
on that.
Dakota. It can't be too many. And not like
Right,
Fargo
right.
area. It's like, it's out there. I'd say the sticks, but
everywhere.
there's no sticks out there. It's just blades of grass. A few cows.
Mileage is not really what I'm concerned about when I'm driving. It's all about the time to get there.
Indeed. I always make a challenge, too, by leaving late to see if you get there on time still.
Oh, man.
Just to see how it goes.
It's like a pastime of North Dakota, I feel. I'm going to leave late and challenge myself to see if I can still get there on time. No, they don't do
South
that in
Dakota's
Chicago,
worse.
Dean, or is there too many cars in the way?
Oh no, you just weave in and out of them. That's all. That's more like NASCAR there.
Yeah, there we go.
Not a bad day out there today. We finally got the heat and the humidity shortly coming. Still a little haze to the sky out there.
A lot of haze.
Yeah, due to all the hippies up in Canada smoking.
No, Minnesota, man. Come on.
No, but it's a north wind. Well, it's variable right now, but
Well,
it's
yeah.
generally the
Tiny
upper
little
level
winds
winds are
Well,
north.
So if there's no wind, that technically means it's coming out of Fargo.
Maybe. But there's some wind at the upper levels. That's where it's coming from. See, it's not.
So there's no smoke in the lower
There's no
level.
smoke in the surface. It's all upper
Are you
levels.
sure about that?
I'm positive.
All right.
Yeah. Are you having trouble breathing?
No, carry on.
Okay, then. Warman, Warman, that's from the wrong smoke. I saw you on break. We're looking at temperatures today into the mid-80s. Some spots could touch upper, but generally mid-80s today with a light and variable wind about 5 to 10. And we're starting to see a few thunderstorms pop up on radar, northwest Minnesota and far northern valley. We'll see a few more of those, just like we did yesterday with temperatures falling off tonight into the low 60s. Any thunderstorms will start to diminish after sunset. And then tomorrow, much of the same like today, with the exception of most of the thunderstorm activity should be to our east and south tomorrow.
Cool.
Mid-80s again, some spots upper 80s, and then right around 90 for Thursday and Friday. Kind of hot.
Oof.
And more humidity.
Oof.
Into the 90s as we head into the upcoming weekend.
Oofda.
So this would be a good weekend for the lake, a pool, something like that.
I need to get me one of them things they call a pool.
Just get one of those. You don't have a blow-up one for Sterling?
No, we got a little plastic dog dish, basically. You know, the little tiny Kiddie pools.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we got.
You could get one of the bigger blow-up ones.
I can't afford that, man.
Oh,
I'll give you a
actually,
loan.
Have you seen inflation on pools?
I'll give you a loan.
Yeah,
I
with
just
your new
saw the
credit score.
greatest idea ever, and
What's
that was
that?
throwing a pool party. Invite everyone to come over, but they have to bring their own kiddie pool to sit in, and then you just
BYOP.
put the kiddie pools, all over the backyard.
Right.
That would be great.
That is a great idea. One of them's got to be filled with beer, right?
Huh?
Or a keg.
Right? To each their own.
You pool and beer?
No, you put ice in it. That's the beer.
That sounds like a cold pool.
Well, if it's hot out,
Well,
it's refreshing.
I bet it. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay, so see me for other great ideas. One of them is also.
Thought she could make it.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, you
That
like
day.
that one, don't you?
Thanks.
That one was a little quiet. We might have to bring it back another time.
That's true. Okay, so great ideas include Monday, Bell Bank is hosting their Ag Views Symposium that will be in Fargo. Starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. If you are interested, check out Bell Bank's website to see if you can attend. There'll be insights brought to you not only by Lynn Paulson with Bell Bank. He has been on the show with us. He is their Senior Vice President of Agriculture and Loans. But then also they will have Dr. David Cole. He is Professor Emeritus from Virginia Tech, and he's going to be here talking about all sorts of what the forecasting is for ag economics right now, not just only in commodity prices, but land values and so much more. So we'll have the opportunity to get some insights from them, and I'll bring those to the show next week so we can share those once they've arrived.
Yes, that would be
So,
great.
Yep, a little something going on there. And I had a listener question about where are the custom combiners these days as they make their way from Texas further north up into Canada following the wheat harvest. A lot of combiners are reporting they're just finishing in Oklahoma. So for those who are wondering when they'll be up here soon enough, they'll be moving through Kansas. There are areas of Kansas that are a bit drier than others, so they can move through some spots a little bit faster than usual. But I think our wheat harvest is coming along quickly. I'm seeing some fields starting to show signs of turning very, very soon. So we'll see what that looks like.
Cool. You know, we've been on the wetter side for the most part, and I mean, if you look in the whole long-term stretch of things, you know, we're near average rainfall. Don't get me wrong, the last month or so has been wet, but with the last couple of weeks and this last week of sporadic here or there showers, is there anyone around our area that you've heard that's like, yeah, I could kind of use another little rinse of rain over my field, or our area could definitely use a little rain, not that it's needed, but or not that it's like, you know, bad, but it could be good.
Desperate.
A little desperate's the word I'm looking for. Yes.
I think we have to move further to the west. You may have some areas there that would be looking for a little bit of rainfall. We are in the midst of haying season, though, and so you got a lot of folks that have grass or hay cut that they want to get baled up before they get any more rain. This weather, less the humidity, but certainly with the heat, is going to help to dry those windrows out and get us baled up pretty quickly. So I'd say that overall, folks are willing to hold off right now until we get a chance to get the hay done. There'll probably be a shower or two before we get our wheat cut, and then after the wheat's off, you know, the beans wouldn't mind taking a little drink now and then just to keep them going through the rest of their season as well. So I'd say we're holding in pretty well right now.
All right.
If
good.
others think differently, they should send us messages, right? ag@flagfamily.com or weather@flagfamily.com. And you can certainly call us 701-293-9000 on the Red Wing Shoe line.
Yeah, indeed, you always can. That's always available for you whenever you want, even if you want to talk about something different than we're currently talking about. And
That's true.
Along the terms of the rain and whatnot, I mean, my yard is getting a little dried out, at least in the topsoil. I think the grass is fine because the roots are deep enough to pick up the extra water we've had. But it hasn't rained in Grand Forks in a while. But
Define a while, like a week?
It's been over a week since it last rained, and
Okay.
what was it? I think I want to say it's been about 10 to 12 days since it last rained in Grand Forks, but I could be wrong. Really, anything measurable at least.
You'll be willing to take some.
I
Now,
could use a little bit, but I haven't had to water the garden yet, so I guess that just goes to show that the subsoil is good.
Oh, yeah. Subsoil moisture is tremendous right now. I don't think we have to worry about that in the least. And it was interesting to note a message from Tom Peters with NDSU Extension, and he specializes in sugar beet production. And Dr. Peters said that, remember that hail damage we saw that went through about a week ago Friday,
Ah,
and
yes.
that destroyed some sugar beets, some dry edible beans,
A lot of
and
wheat.
certainly a wheat crop. And in his remarks, he said, you will see significant damage to those crops, but the sugar beets, because the beet is underground and the leaves are above, he felt like we'd see a fair amount of recovery with those beets. We'll just have to see what that looks like. But at the moment, all of our beet crop is really trying to come back as much as it can. Because let's face it, we want to get to that point this fall where we're saying sugar, sugar, and we probably will. So we'll
Mm-hmm.
keep an eye out for that. Going to be a busy afternoon here. One of our guests, our guest who's showing up today to visit with us is Jay Rehder. Jay is on the Clay County Fair Board. That fair is coming up in Barnesville this week. It's going to be a cooker. I'm looking forward to being there on Friday and sharing what's going on. And Jay's going to help us answer a listener question as well. So for those of you who want to know more about the Clay County Fair, perhaps you have questions that you want to get asked as we have our discussion today, you are more than welcome to reach us again at 701-293-9000. Get ready to ask those questions, hear all about the fair, because we also want to ask Jay, who farms, how his crop is doing in Clay County, Minnesota. So stay tuned. We'll start that segment right after this. And welcome back to Weather Nag in Focus. Thank you for joining us. So much to talk about today, and especially if you are considering going to an auction sale or calling an auctioneer for any of your needs, be sure to check out the Steffes Group at steffesgroup.com. In 2022, they performed 670 auctions in 12 states and had bidders from all 50 states as well as 38 countries. If you're looking for someone to auction off any of your items, farm equipment and farmland, and so much more, they have a great reputation as well as a widespread audience to reach out to. And I always think that our auctioneer goes hand in hand with one of our bank sponsors, and that's Dakota Bank. You should have one if you're going to have the other. Make sure that you know if you're going shopping at Steffes Group that you've talked to Dakota Bank. They are a national leader in ag lending, and they're the largest independent bank for ag loans headquartered in the Dakotas. Thanks to all of them for working with us on our project, Here We Grow, at WDAY. Gentlemen, let me introduce Jay Rehder. I've known Jay for a long time here in the ag industry. Jay not only farms, but he is a board member on the Clay County Fair Board. And I don't know about that hat, Jay. Oh my goodness. I'm going to have to check if I can blank that out in the live stream.
Well,
We
that
can
might have
pixelate
been intentional. That might have been a little bit intentional this morning when I left the house. So
There's Jay stabbing me in the heart. Thanks, man.
well, I mean, full disclosure, I mean, I am an NDSU person. That's where I went to school, animal science, and my oldest daughter, NDSU graduate, and son-in-law NDSU graduate. But then there's that one kid that decides he needs to go to South Dakota State. So that was my son, and he had a great experience there.
He did, and he's doing extremely well. So, okay,
Yes.
Jay, Clay County Fair. What are the initial details that we should be knowing coming up this week for the fair? Where would you like to start?
Well, I mean, I guess just kind of start with it's the 110th year of the Clay County Fair. It's held in Barnesville, Minnesota, so just outside of the Fargo-Moorhead area, just off Interstate 94. And we pride ourselves on being what I think is a very, very traditional county fair. When you think of what a county fair is in the Midwest, we have livestock, we have, your fair foods, you have your grandstand events and entertainment, that type of a thing. And we pride ourselves on that. And, we think we have a great fairgrounds, and we provide a lot of entertainment and a lot of things for people to see. It's a free gate fair. We don't charge for you to come into the fairgrounds. If you want to park on the grounds, we'll charge for that. But, we just pride ourselves on putting on a very traditional county fair.
And Jay, is there anything that if anybody's never been to the county fair in Barnesville, that's a must-see for somebody that's brand new?
I think one of the things, and I'm livestock biased. I mean, I've been around livestock my entire life, and I think one of the things that we see is we get a lot of young families that come to our county fair, and they spend a tremendous amount of time in the barns because the kids are just fascinated with cattle and sheep, goats, poultry, chickens, ducks, turkeys, rabbits, swine, whatever it might be. And for a lot of those kids, that is maybe one of the exposures or only exposure they get to during a year in being close to any kind of to livestock or an animal or to agriculture. And we notice that they really, really appreciate that. The other thing too is, we have a very small carnival. It's very kid family type friendly. The whole fair is, and I think people really appreciate that. It's not a huge layout. I mean, we have good sized grounds, but it's not overwhelming like going to a North Dakota State Fair or Minnesota State Fair where we have, hundreds of thousands of people on the grounds, and people can just enjoy themselves. And I think we've seen that over the last years that we've had some great attendance, and I think that has a lot to do with it because it's a very safe environment. It's an environment where people feel like they can ask questions and, talk to people and learn something. And again, the livestock is a tremendous draw at our county fair.
So, Jay, I want to back up just a minute. There's a lot of different questions I've just written down we want to talk about. You said 110th year of the Clay County Fair, and I said Barnesville, but if people actually want to find the fairgrounds, where is it? Has that always been its location? Well over 100 years, or what's changed about the fair even since you started going as a youth?
So the location of the county fairgrounds is right in the middle of Barnesville, the city itself. When the fair was established 110 years ago, the first couple of fairs are actually held just outside of Moorhead, if I remember correctly. Then there was a gentleman by the name of Julian Thompson that a very large landowner in and around Barnesville, that he wrote a charter to the county and then chartered the county fair in Barnesville, which it was unique that he would do that because Barnesville is really not in the center of the county by any stretch. It's in the very southeastern corner of Clay County. But he chartered it for Barnesville, and then he had land that then he developed the Clay County Agricultural Society, is what we're known as. So I'm a member of that, which any past fair board member is. And then he gifted that land to that society, and that's how we ended up with our fairgrounds. There's a small chunk of our fairgrounds that is actually owned by the city of Barnesville, and we have a 99-year lease on that, which I think we're 15 years into our 99-year lease. So that's how the fair ended up in Barnesville. And a couple of buildings, one building does date back to the early 1900s, what we call our open class building. And then our old horse barn, I believe, was a 1920s, early 1930s structure.
Okay, I also asked in that one, what's changed for you? I mean, you didn't just start on the fair board last year. You have a bit of a history with Clay County Fair as well.
Yeah, so my history is my dad was on the fair board for 35 years prior, and I happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time at the grocery store in Barnesville one day. And the current president at that time said, say Monday night, you need to be at the Eagle Cafe at 7 o'clock for a fair board meeting. I said, I'm not on the fair board. He goes, well, you are now. So you got to be to the meeting Monday at 7 o'clock. So that was now 19 years ago that I've been on the fair. I think what's probably changed the most is we went through a lot of the main core things have stayed the same. We've had some of the same food vendors for over 40 years. Some of our grandstand activities like the demolition derby, tractor pull, that's all been the same. There's been a lot of changes in 4-H, been a lot of changes in FFA. That kind of ebb and flows a little bit as far as the involvement level with those organizations. We're seeing a real uptick in FFA. 4-H is maybe making some changes a little bit in how they do some things. And we went through some real ebb and flows in the amount of participation that people that have attended and also in our livestock numbers. And we're very much on the upswing. There wasn't that many years ago, probably 17, 18 years ago, we were lucky to get 6 hogs at our county fair, maybe 15 beef. And now we'll have 100 hogs at our county fair, upwards of 70 beef and dairy. Barns are going to be full. And there seems like there's a younger generation that's coming through now. We're talking people in their 30s, early 40s with kids that are getting much more involved in our county for some reason in the livestock end of things. And that's been really, really encouraging to see. It's been great to see because there's so few of us that actually farm on a day-to-day occupation anymore. But there's a lot of families in our county that are very involved in agriculture. It might be they have a few cattle, they might have a few of this, a few of that, but they're bringing that and they're educating their kids, which is really exciting to see because that's really, really important. You know, Bridgette, you and I have talked about that in ag education and, you know, where's the next generation going to come from? And I think we're doing a really good job in Clay County and, you know, trying to help foster that. So we have that next generation, that next leap as we keep going forward.
Okay, so we've got a lot of things that we need to cover there, Jay. But before we hit 1:30, bottom of the hour, we're going to break for local news. What are the days of the fair so that people who are marking their calendars right now can make sure to pencil that in?
So our entry day is on Thursday, this coming Thursday, so that's July 11th, and then we run through Sunday, July 14th. So 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th. The 2 big days of the fair are Friday and Saturday.
Oh, we'll have to go through that one more time before we're done, but we will do that after we hit bottom of the hour news. So don't go anywhere. I still have a long list of questions for Jay, and we'll get to all of those and be right back. Welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thank you for joining us. It is a great day to talk about fairs, all the good things that come along with them. And Jay, when you and I talked yesterday, I let you know that I had a listener question for us to answer. And we can probably both put some comments to this, but I had someone say that what is the difference between 4-H and FFA? So where should we start, Jay?
That's a really great question, and I participated in both programs, many years ago, and I'm a little bit maybe more FFA biased, than 4-H a little bit. I think 4-H has really changed over the years compared to like when I was in 4-H. Leadership, the youth leadership aspect of 4-H was such a big thing. And 4-H now is still very much involved in the county level, but they do a lot of like after school type programs. They're more in the school, they're doing more educational type things, that way more outreach, which I think is a really good thing. There's a need for that. FFA obviously caters to, your students that are, 7th, 8th grade and on, through their high school career. FFA to me is just an incredibly professional organization that you really learn some life skills. There's things that I learned in FFA that I still use today. Robert's Rules of Orders. 4-H does that too, but I mean, the way our meetings were ran in FFA, I was on our school board for many years and on this fair board, and that always comes into play, and that's something that you need to know. The one thing I will say about FFA that's always I've always been admired is that as times have changed and evolved, FFA has still stayed very true to its core values. They still hold true to their core values, but they've evolved and changed. So I think there's some differences between the two. They're both great organizations, but I think FFA sometimes maybe does a little better job of catering to more the professional side of things as students move further on in their high school career. And then even there's collegiate FFA, they even go on beyond that. And I mean, Bridgette, obviously you've introduced or interviewed, state FFA officers and whatnot. And there's some highly polished and incredibly intelligent and capable people. And both organizations are great, but there are some differences between the two.
I think to add to that, Jay, if I can help listeners understand, 4-H really goes through the extension service. So you'll see that done through the universities, starting very young. Clover buds, if I'm not mistaken, are about kindergarten age.
6.
And then
Yep.
6? Okay. And then you age out at about 18 years old, maybe just a tish higher, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Where FFA, you're going to start as a 7th grader in high school, and it's going to be done through the public schools. So for FFA, you're going to see students that take an ag classroom class, so something ag education in class. They also can be in their FFA chapter, which is where their contests, their scholarships, etc. happen. And then additionally, they have what's called their supervised ag experience program, which is similar to what you do in 4-H. They can even stem off of one another. And
correct.
I think about that as that's like your job, right? You either get hired off farm, or you're raising hogs, or you're farming actively and you're doing that to raise money, do your bookkeeping, and earn awards for it. And so here's my big question for you, Jay. Were hogs your 4-H and FFA project, or did you decide to get into showing hogs a little bit later on in life?
No. So my story on hogs is I grew up with hogs. My dad raised purebred Chester White hogs for probably close to 40 years. We got out in the 90s when everybody else did, when hogs went to like $2. You couldn't give them away. And I did not enjoy hogs at all, not even one bit, because I was the hog guy on the farm. My oldest daughter, Hannah, when she was about 5 years old, said, I want to show pigs. And I got back into it, and I fell in love with the show pigs. And we got into it hardcore. My daughter and I, we actually raised show pigs for a few years until she decided to get married and start having babies. And then we kind of put that on hold for a little bit. But I can see that back in our future. But yeah, that was my experience with hogs. I showed cattle and I showed hogs all the years that I was growing up. I had one brother that showed sheep. My son got into sheep, hardcore, and that's what we did with our 3 kids. Is we raised and showed hogs and sheep, and just really, really enjoyed it.
I was wondering, how does the fair compare to the Barnesville Potato Days?
2 totally different events. Potato Days is a great event. It's a 2-day event. It's a street. It's kind of a glory. I say it's glorified street fair, but I mean, you've got tons of vendors. There's, there's music, there's street dance, there's all of that kind of thing. Last year they added a rodeo. They did 2 nights of rodeo out at the fairgrounds, and that went over very, very well. They're going to do that again. And I haven't been to Potato Days, honestly, full disclosure, in over 20 years, because we had been to the Minnesota State Fair. Minnesota State Fair Livestock Weekend always falls on Potato Days. So since our oldest daughter was old enough to show at the Minnesota State Fair, we've won a trip every year, and we're down there. So I will be Potato Days this year, because we're not going to the Minnesota State Fair. But I've got just a few years before that's probably going to change, when the grandsons get old enough to do that. But Potato Days is just a very different event in the fact that it's vendors. It's more, kind of like a street fair kind of a thing. It's a great activity, and they have all the potato stuff along with it. I mean, it's the Lefse contest, the mashed potato wrestling. They used to have that. There's the potato picking, all kinds of things potato related. So.
Right. Well, you had mentioned rodeo there. That kind of leads into another question at the Clay County Fair.
Yes.
What are some of the featured events you got planned for the fair over those dates, the 11th through the 14th? Any prized or featured things going on? You had mentioned a derby at one point. Is that still the case this year?
Absolutely. So Thursday night in the grandstand, we will have the band 32 Below will be performing, and we have a beer garden for the band. And then on Friday, we have a modified tractor, truck, and semi-pull. And it's the National Tractor Pullers Association. It's the NTPA, so that's the top tier of the tractor pulling. And they put on a show. They put on a fantastic show. And then on Saturday, we have the Demolition Derby. The Demolition Derby has been happening at the Clay County Fair since, I think, 1968 or 1970. I'm not for sure on that. And that is a packed house, standing room only event. We just get an incredible amount of people for that. And then on Sunday afternoon, we actually have a ranch rodeo, which, if you're familiar with what a ranch rodeo is, it's way different than a rodeo. A ranch rodeo is actually events where you could kind of correlate that to ranch life, like trying to milk a wild cow, to sled races, to different things. It's a little bit different. That's done in our arena. But those 3 grandstand events on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday are the main events for us at the Clay County Fair.
Oh, super cool. And you mentioned earlier, in terms of a lot of kids coming out to see livestock at the barns, getting them all full of different kinds of animals. I don't know if this is easy to gauge, but what would you say your demographic is between kids that are coming in from ag backgrounds and those that really don't have much of an agriculture background at all? And then along with that, what are some of the more common questions that these kids are asking about the animals?
So I'd say, from a demographic standpoint, obviously the youth that are there exhibiting the animals, that's a captive audience, right? Mm-hmm. So I would say the percentage of people that come in that are not actively showing is a very high percentage that don't have any exposure or a farm background or a day-to-day experience with any type of livestock. And you can tell that when they walk through the barn. I mean, you can see the look on their face that this is a brand new experience. We haven't seen a steer before. We haven't seen a cow with a calf at its side before. And some of the questions we get is, one of the most common is, what do they eat? What do you feed them? Mm-hmm. How many times a day do you feed them? How much do they weigh? And then you get the questions too, is like, what's their purpose? And then you kind of explain, well, if you enjoy that hamburger, this is how that happens. Or if you enjoy that steak or that piece of chicken, this is how that happens. And I think sometimes you can see the wheels start to turn, and they get that connection between, okay, somebody's actually raising, producing, and caring for something that then we're consuming as a food product. And I think at a very young age, that's a good thing. They need to understand and have that realization that there is a group of people out there that are doing something to help them, sustain their own life, or to carry on, so to speak. So you do see that, that happen. And I think that's really cool. I mean, I enjoy that, enjoy talking to young families or kids, and they got crazy questions, and that's awesome. Like, why is this one red and that one's black? Well, that's genetics, and then we could have a whole discussion about genetics, and it's just fun.
That's super cool.
Okay. I have to ask this question because I know that you and I are talking this because it's a language we both understand, but Jay, when you say I showed a pig or I showed a cow, What does that mean to someone who's not sure? I mean, what did you show them? Like you gave them a video, or what'd you do with them?
Yeah. So good question. So, cattle is interesting. I mean, there's a halter breaking process where you actually have a halter with a lead on it, and you have to work with that animal to get it to actually lead and to do what you want it to do. Sounds simple. It is not. It's one of the most difficult things that you can do. It's rewarding when it works, but to get to that point, to actually be able to lead 1,000-pound, heifer or a 1,300-pound steer across the ring and get it to set up and present it, in a class in front of a judge to be judged is a difficult thing to do. Hogs are very interesting to work with. Hogs are incredibly intelligent animals. And I can tell you that a marshmallow on the end of a show stick in front of a hog's nose is one of the best training tools ever, because they will follow that marshmallow until they get that marshmallow as a reward. We had bags upon bags of marshmallows in our house when we were showing hogs. And they learn. When we had hogs, they knew when I came to feed, and they knew when I opened the gate, we were going out for a walk, and they knew how long they were going to walk. And then they would head back to the barn. They would go into their pens, and they knew the feed was coming, and they knew what that routine was. And it didn't take long for them to figure it out. And, it's a process. You learn a lot, but there's a real chemistry that these kids develop with their animal. They spend so much time with them, and it's an interesting life lesson that you don't get in any other activity that kids of that age can be in, be sports or whatever it might be. You have something that is dependent on you. That person that has that calf or that hog or whatever it might be, that animal is dependent on you for its well-being. And that's a life lesson that you just don't learn anywhere else. And I think that's what makes livestock showing to me so special, because there is that bond between that person that's exhibiting and that animal that they're caring for.
And Jay, we've got just a few minutes left here, and if people didn't catch it earlier in our show, can you run down? It starts on Thursday, goes through Sunday. Can you run down the hours one more time, please?
Yeah, so Thursday we start, stuff will start rolling at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then the concert will probably wrap about 10 o'clock that night. And that's kind of the hours all days of the fair. Like I said, Friday's the tractor pull. That's at 6:30. Demolition Derby starts at 6 o'clock on Saturday night. We have other entertainment in our band shelter, free entertainment during all 4 days of the fair. Food vendors, carnival, we have a glass blower, we have axe throwing, all kinds of different events during the 4 days of the fair, Thursday through Sunday this coming week, July 11th through the 14th.
Awesome.
And Jay, there was a listener question that's very vital to be asked because they've been scrolling your website and didn't find it. Will there be a Ferris wheel on the Midway?
I don't know that for sure, because I have not been there today. I'm sitting just south of Grand Forks, North Dakota right now, and I will be there later on today, and I will be able to verify if there is one or not. I am not. Okay. There should be. But there hasn't always been one, but there should be one this year.
Okay, that would be important. And just as we wrap up, Jay, one last question for you, because you are in Clay County, Minnesota, and you do farm. How does your crop look? Moisture-wise, probably been a fair amount. What do things look like for you right now?
My own acres personally, I'll just sum it up in one word: terrible.
Oh man.
On Sunday afternoon, I had 1.6 inches of rain. You go 3 miles away from my house, they had a tenth. And then last night we picked up more rain again. Tim, who I farm with, sprayed a bunch of beans yesterday afternoon, and an hour later he had 7/10 of rain. So there's at least 250 acres that'll have to be resprayed. Just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And we have been so waterlogged in our area. This is as tough of looking crop as we've had in many, many years. And in Bridgette, our soil type and our heavy clay. A dry year, I'll take it. I'll take a dry year any day of the week over a wet year. My grandpa always said a dry year will scare you, but a wet year will starve you in our country. And that's what we're experiencing this year. It's unprecedented, the amount of water we've had.
And your subsoil is going to be good to get you through next year if you needed it to.
Correct. Yep, 100%. Absolutely.
Hey, Jay, just out of curiosity, when did you get planted? Is this more of a recent crop, or is it the rain really stunted it that much from getting in at, say, a quote unquote normal time?
So we got rolling on corn the last week of April, 24th, 25th.
Okay.
We put the last corn on the ground on May 12th, and I felt really, really good about that. And we had a few hundred acres of beans also planted at that point in time. And then around May 14th or 15th, it started to rain.
Mm-hmm.
We never got back in the field for almost a month.
Wow.
The last soybeans I planted was on June 16th or 17th, and they actually look okay.
All right.
Oh,
I guess
Jake,
that's
come
all we
back.
get.
We lost them.
That's
No.
all we got.
Phone call.
There we go.
I suppose that probably.
Yep, they
Oh
didn't.
no, Jay's
Mother
back.
Nature didn't want us talking
He's
about
back.
Am I
crops and
back?
water. You're
Yep.
back.
Yep.
Sorry
You're
about
good.
that. Yeah, we got back. We finished up on June 16th or 17th on the soybeans, and then I had to actually rip up some corn, and then I planted sunflowers on the corn acres on June 23rd,
man.
4th, somewhere in there. So, and we've got some corn that I wish we would have worked up. It looks so bad. It's just embarrassing. And there's other parts of the area that are not that bad. It's just there's certain pockets that are much worse this year than others. And, the amount of rain, I mean, like I said, on Sunday, a few miles down the road, 2/10, and I got 1.6, on some stuff around where I live. It's just unbelievable how that kind of works.
Yeah,
But
super
that's just the
localized
way it
this
is.
year. Yeah.
It has been. It really has been. Yep.
Right on.
All right.
Well, appreciate it, Jay.
Jay?
Thanks for coming
Yeah,
on and talking a little bit about the fair.
Yeah.
Again, where website for people to go to grab more information if they missed our interview.
Minnesota Clay. It's MN Clay County Fair.
Awesome. Well, appreciate it, Jay. Well, stay tuned, listeners. We'll come back with a check on the forecast. We got a few more ag topics, and of course, if you want to sneak in the program, real quick, 701-293-9000 is the Red Wing shoe line. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the program. Thanks for rejoining us. 1:53:20, July 9th. Temperatures outside sitting at a cozy 82 degrees.
Would you call that cozy?
That's cozy. There's enough haze and enough clouds out there to where it's not baking you if you're out on the sidewalk or the grass.
Good point.
It's smoky and hazy, a little cloudy. Lots of sunshine.
Not much
sneaking
breeze
through.
to blow things
No,
around.
you see, that's the big thing is when you get temperatures and humidity that start reaching to where they're at today in like the 80s and dew points in the 60s and near 70, you need that breeze just as a periodical cool down if you don't get any shade or a periodical cloud to go in front of the sun. And come on, Dean, I can't be alone on that. You got to appreciate a nice breeze on a hot day.
Absolutely.
All right.
I don't like it that still.
We're finally seeing,
Yeah.
eye to eye a little bit here,
So, Bridgette, I got a question for you.
Yes.
I don't want to get
Sure, what you got?
I don't want to get political on our show, but we're gonna throw it out there. So there were 600 John Deere layoffs that are either just happened or are happening. I think it's just Midwest,
They're
is it
happening.
not?
happening.
There's two different
From
factory
the
sites,
Moline,
but yes.
out in Moline, and anyway, the jobs are going
different
down to
ones.
Mexico. I thought that we had brought a bunch of those jobs, specifically, I believe it was for John Deere, back from Mexico. Any idea what happened? Why are they going back there now? Obviously, they're going back there because it's cheaper to make the parts, but I thought we brought those back here to the States.
But just remember, it was different divisions because they're talking about layoffs at two different places. One was Harvest Works, but I don't remember if the other one was Tractors or what it was. And what came back from Mexico was different. I want to say what came back had to do with some of the assembly for, and please don't quote me, I have to make sure this is right, but they brought something back. I think it had to do with the silage choppers.
Okay.
And so it can depend on what it is. They're shifting things around. Now, hang on. There's also something here. I've worked in corporate America long enough to understand that when they say there's 600 layoffs, generally speaking, there's a lot of retirements involved in there that aren't going to get backfilled, but they call that a layoff. So that job position is going to be eliminated. Although someone was retiring, they just aren't backfilling it. So I'm not going to say that that's
Part of it,
necessarily the case here, but it might be part of it. John Deere is getting the black eye, but Case IH is moving jobs, and so is AGCO. So they're
So
not
why
only
is
having
it just
those
John
same
Deere
layoffs.
making the headlines then?
When you're the number one market share in a market, you're going to be the first one to get the blame pointed at you.
I'm
but
sorry,
all the other
Bridgette.
majors
Could
are
you
doing
say
it.
that one more time?
I said, if you're number one in the market,
There
you're
we
going to get the
go.
blame.
Just wanted to make
Thanks
sure
for
that was
recording that.
repeated.
You wanted to record that sounder, didn't you?
Well,
He
I'm not
did,
going to
he
use
did.
it as a sounder. I just wanted to make a point.
Okay.
Go Big Green.
And so yeah, Case and AGCO are doing the same thing, but they just are moving. They are reducing by smaller numbers, but they're also making some moves. Especially AGCO announced that they're making some moves towards Mexico as well.
Is it
So
that much cheaper? Obviously, it is. Is it that much cheaper to move all this to?
I don't know. The meteorologist we interviewed for your position seemed a lot cheaper than what you do. So, how's that?
Facts.
But
Well,
see, you
here's
don't get
another-
the same quality. That's
Well,
the problem.
look at what-
it's called
That's
quality.
right.
You pay what
That's
you get.
right.
You pay for what you get. No, no offense.
Just
No
let that
offense.
silence marinate for a second. Let's just take a moment. All right. Now look at the what Bobcat was doing, because there was the conversation or the concern that the plant down in Gwinner was going to shut down. They were going to lay off a bunch of people and move all the people down to Mexico, and that wasn't the case. But they're opening a new plant down in Mexico because the jobs they're trying to fill can't be filled in the United States.
Here.
Do you think that may play a factor? We're like, yeah, all right, 600 people are getting laid off, but they're trying to hire another 600 people that aren't there, and there's not enough people to run the plants. Do you think that's part of a factor at all?
I think that's absolutely fair because let's face it, there's not always enough people to go around for everything that's needed. And there are some jobs that aren't going to be filled here. We're going to have to do them elsewhere in order to keep up with that level of production. So also, a press release is not going to come out and say that, you guys. They're not going to come out and say, hey, you know what? We couldn't get enough of you people in Iowa to work for us, so we got to go elsewhere to look for it. They're not going to say that.
No, they definitely will
Yeah.
not. Dean, you want to take this outro?
So
I'll take it home.
You know, we pay you a lot.
Again, you get what you pay for. What show are we on again? No. I want to
no,
thank everybody for joining us today on Weather and Ag in Focus. Don't go anywhere. The #1 afternoon show on the market, the Jay Thomas Show, is coming up next.